welcome to Alan's Italy. We're back on the air. After 3 weeks, a rather harrowing 3 weeks, we are back and the show is going to move forward in the normal way. What happened was that one evening my computer just went completely black, and after being on the phone with Apple night after night trying to correct the problem, it wouldn't correct, and I had to bring it to an Apple store, and the Apple store couldn't fix it, and they sent it out, and then it sort of got lost in cyber world, and after waiting a couple of weeks and constant calls to the manager of the store in Albany, the Apple Care store in Albany, they offered me a new computer, and I took it, and I've been trying to replace everything onto the computer, which was really a mammoth job that took another many hours of work on the phone with Apple Care. And I had my computer specialist, Dan Giroux, over to help me bring back some of the characteristics I needed in order to do the show. And we're pretty much ready, although just before the show began a few minutes ago, we had a problem that I had corrected from on my previous computer, but never corrected here, which I kind of remembered how to do it, thank goodness. So we're on, and this is, it's going to be show number 73. And the first thing I'd like to really say is that show number 70 was a show, it was the introductory show to the Palazzo Bembo show, which was the venue of the Palazzo venue of Laura's exhibition in the Venice Biennale, and we decided to do that show over again. So if you look for it on YouTube, you won't see it because I removed it. But we're going to probably be doing that show very soon over again with corrections that I think will make the show much better. So if you're looking for number 70, it will be back probably within the next couple of weeks, I hope. Anyway, while we were in Venice this last time, we took literally hundreds of pictures of various places in Venice, and it was really wonderful, and I spent quite a bit of time trying to organize in my mind how to present all the hundreds and hundreds of pictures that we had accumulated, and part of which you saw because those are the 3 shows that I already did on the exhibition at the Palazzo Bembo. But there were other shows and beautiful things. And as I'm walking around Venice and Laura's doing all the great photography work, I did a little bit of it, but Laura did most of it. I kind of was working in my mind exactly how I wanted to present it. And I have a number of different ideas that have been translated into actual shows. And one of them is going to be tonight's show, which is called The Neighborhoods of Venice. And I shouldn't really say The Neighborhoods of Venice because, it should really be Neighborhoods of Venice, because even though I cover most of them, this is my interpretation. So if you're really looking for a history lesson on the different neighborhoods of Venice, I can't do that. What you're going to get is my interpretation, my experience of being in the different neighborhoods. Now, there are Sestieri, and these are the districts of Venice. So, for example, this is what I was referencing to before, show number 70, which we're doing over again, so I just wanted to show you that. These are what's called the Sestieri of Venice, and there are 7, although sometimes it's referred to as 6, because the area at the very bottom, which is the Giudecca, is an area that sometimes is not included among the 7 Sestieri. But I have been to all of these different parts of Venice, and tonight's show is going to be my interpretation of what to see, what to do, and things that make each of them unique. Now, it's going to be obvious why some of them are unique. And you won't need me to tell you that. You just need to see the photographs and you'll know that they're unique. But I will give you my take on all the, various things. And this is obviously a map of Venice, and I've shown you many maps of Venice. But just to show you a couple of things, this is the train station right up here in the red here. This is the causeway that comes into Venice, and it allows you to park your car over here, you see, or over here at the Piazzale Roma. And then, you come down the Grand Canal. Here's the Grand Canal over here. Here's the Rialto Bridge. The Scalzi Bridge would be over here, but it's not shown in the picture. But the Rialto Bridge is shown because the Rialto itself, which is not a Sestieri, a district in itself, is still a very, very interesting neighborhood that I will be talking about in a few moments. And then, of course, you continue down the Grand Canal, and there's another bridge over here at Accademia. And those are the bridges of Venice. Actually, there's another bridge over here, which is the, and now I forgot the name of the Calatrava Bridge, which was created by an architect by the name of Calatrava. And then, of course, it indicates the Marco Polo Airport, which is up here on the mainland. Okay, so these are the places we're going to focus on. And we're going to start with the most famous of all of the districts in the areas of Venice, and that is the Piazza San Marco. And this is the photograph that is one of my favorites. This is the view of the Piazza San Marco from a motorboat that is just, or it could be a Vaporetto that's, driving past that area. And what you're looking at now are the two obelisks that were placed there to honor two of the saints, the patron saints of Venice. And the area in front, of course, is the Molo. This area right in front of this building is called the Molo. In here is the Piazzetta, which is kind of the small, Piazzetta is a small piazza, and then behind it is the Piazza San Marco. These two steeples here represent three steeples, actually four. The church, the cathedral. This is the Doge's palace, and this, of course, is the famous Campanile. So, and this is what it looks like. And, we tried to take more unique pictures than we had for the previous shows I've done on Venice. And this is certainly a wonderful picture of what the Molo looks like. And, this is where the boats dock, and this is where most of the people kind of walk to get from one part of Venice to another. And in the background, you can see there the church of San Salute. Is another view of the of that area. As you get further along in this direction, it's the Via Scavone. So it's not really this part is not considered the Molo anymore. And you could see a variety of activities. People have their tripods set up and giving directions to each other. And there's just a lot of activity in this part of Venice. And this part of Venice is known pretty much as the hub of all the activity. And this is the Piazza San Marco, which Napoleon dubbed the drawing room of Europe, which is kind of like the hangout. It was a hangout when Napoleon was there in the 19th century, and of course it still is, with pigeons and vendors and people milling about. And it's sort of hard to see, but there are a few cafes. And of course the museum that's all the way at the back is the Cora Museum, which has some wonderful exhibitions. This is a fabulous view of the Piazza San Marco from the Cora Museum, the second floor of the Cora. You could see a wonderful view of the Church of San Marco and also the Campanile of San Marco, which you could go up on top and get a really great look. And you could see now from this vantage point some of the cafes on the left and on the right, which of course charge you a tremendous amount of money for a cappuccino, but very, very worthwhile sitting there, because you could sit there for as long as you want and you get the musicians playing for you in the background. This is the close-up of the Cathedral of San Marco, and obviously one of the most beautiful churches in all of Italy. And you can see the Eastern influence of that. And this is a view of the Piazzetta, looking at it from the vantage point as you just walk around the Piazza San Marco and make a right turn and head towards the Molo. And this, of course, is a beautiful view from the dock of the Molo, looking out at San Giorgio Maggiore, the church right there at the end of the Giudecca. And this is a very unique picture. This is, one of the pictures. I don't, in all our thousands of pictures, we don't have this picture. This is a picture of the Bridge of Sighs, but from the opposite angle. So this is a really great view of it that most people do not get a chance to see. This is another view of the Molo area with all the, kind of tacky souvenir stands that people kind of get an enjoyment out of, so you can't, knock it too much. And this is a view from the Molo looking at the Piazzetta with the Campanile in the background. And this is a panoramic shot that we took with our iPhones, which gives you a very, very interesting point of view because it's giving you kind of a wide-angle look at what the piazza looks like with all the various parts of it kind of put together into the same piece, from the very end of it with this clock tower, the famous clock tower, going all the way around the arcade to the Cora Museum and then back the other side to the Campanile. So this is a very unique picture of that we took with our iPhones. And this is a view of the arcades. As you walk around the Piazza San Marco, there's an arcade, which protects you from the elements, and all the jewelry stores and leather stores and other kinds of stores and restaurants and cafes are there. So that's a very popular place for people to walk around, out of the sun especially. And this, of course, is a view of one of the cafes, which has music playing 24 hours a day. Now, not all the cafes play their music at the same time. The way it works is that they take breaks, and each place kind of times it so that all the musicians of all the cafes are not playing at the same time. But it's fun. You sit at one of those tables and you get the view of the piazza. And even though it's, you might look at it as being overpriced, but it's not really, because, you could sit there for 2 hours listening to symphonic music, which is really wonderful. And you get this incredible people view of what's going on. This is a view of it from inside one of the arcades, looking out at what the musicians see. So, this is quite a setup. And this is a great shot because you could see that it's, children love this piazza. If you bring children to Venice, I always say to people, take a boat ride. The children will love that because the adults love it also. But, the children like to play in the piazza, and they like to run after the pigeons, and they like to feed the pigeons, and it's cute. And, this is a view of what goes on there with children playing in the Piazza San Marco. And, as you get away from the Piazza San Marco, Venice, and that area of Venice, the San Marco area, is more than just the piazza. And this is the famous Hotel Bauer, which is one of the most famous hotels in Venice. You could see that it's a 5-star hotel. You could see right under where it says Bauer are 5 stars. That shows you that it's one of the really top hotels in Venice. So this is out of the way of the piazza. And, this is San Marco. And you would say, really? Is that San Marco? It doesn't look like it because San Marco is always so crowded with people and pigeons and everything else. But this is also part of it as well. And this is the part of it that people really enjoy, although you don't see it there, you see nobody, but we like it. We like to just walk around. And when you walk around the San Marco area, you not only have the most popular areas, but the less popular areas. This is one of the streets that connects San Marco with the next area going towards the Dorsoduro area. Actually, we're headed now towards the Cannaregio area. And, there are shops, beautiful shops that people like to go into and look at jewelry and Murano glass. Oh, excuse me. This is the view of the Bridge of Sighs from the opposite angle. So that was a mistake. I'm going to go back to that because I want to correct the mistake. And I should have put them in closer proximity. This is looking at the Bridge of Sighs from the normal way. So this is the way people see it. And this next picture is the picture that people see from the opposite way. Okay, so forgive me for saying that, but I was a little confused. But we kind of walked all the way around that whole area and came upon kind of the back spot of this canal, which leads to the Grand Canal. And this gives you the view of the Bridge of Sighs that very few people see. As you could see, there are no people in this spot over here. There's one guy kind of sitting on the left there. I don't know who that is, but there's somebody sitting there. But otherwise, nobody knows about this particular angle. And this is one of the very famous hotels in the San Marco area, the Hotel Danieli, where Laura and I had the privilege of staying, compliments of a friend of mine who was the manager of that hotel and got us a very reasonable room. But this is what the lobby looks like. It's really beautiful. And of course, this is another view of San Marco that you very rarely see. That's the Doge's Palace. And actually, if you then turn to the right, you would see the Bridge of Sighs. And these are some more stores. And now we're going to move on to the next area, and that's Castello. So you can see San Marco right there with the Piazza San Marco. And if you move a little bit to the right, which in this case would be towards the east, you get to the Castello area. And the Castello area is an area that we have spent some time, but it's known for several things. One of which is that being next to the San Marco area, it also gets very crowded. But then as you move more towards the east, it gets less crowded. And we happen to be in this spot, number one, because we were staying in a hotel there. I'm going to have a show next Friday night called The Three Hotels of Venice, a story of 3 hotels, because when we were in Venice during the past 7-day trip, we stayed in 3 different hotels. I'd like to relate that story to you. One of the hotels was in the Castello area, and I'm going to show you that hotel very soon. But this is what it looks like as you head from San Marco to Castello, and you could see that it's very crowded. And it's funny because I just read an article that the Kodak Corporation is going out of business or has gone out of business. So there's an old sign for people that still use film in their cameras. And as you move away from that area, it becomes less and less populated. But this is still Venice, one of the areas where you could walk around. And this indeed is, I would say no more than maybe a couple of 100 yards to the east of the Piazza San Marco. And you can see that it's quite residential. There's a clothesline hanging on the upper left-hand corner there, as you could see. And it's an empty piazza, which is extraordinary considering that if you walked literally 2 or 3 minutes to the east, to the west rather, you would see all the crowds. And this is one of the spots in this Castello area that's kind of lovely and it's kind of peaceful. And this is where we were staying, in this area. And this is, a clothesline that goes from one apartment to another apartment that I guess they share that line, as I used to do when I lived in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, and my mother shared a clothesline with one of her neighbors. So, that's what it kind of looks like. This is a canal in that area, and as you could see, there are very few people and boats that aren't even uncovered, so with a bridge over there in the background, and the beautiful architecture with the windows on the left side. You see those windows on the left? That is so evocative of Venice. And there's a close-up of one of the buildings. I wouldn't even call it a palazzo, but, It's just a regular building on a canal. Another piazza. Actually, they don't. There's only one piazza in Venice, so everything else is called a campo, which is the same thing as a piazza, with a really interesting bridge over there. And the other thing that's in this area of Venice is the Biennale. The Biennale is in the Castello area, with the Arsenale area where they have a lot of the exhibitions, and also the Giardini area where they have a lot of the exhibitions as well. This was a campo right near where the Venice Biennale took place, and we kind of got lost at this point and asked somebody for directions. But you could see that there's a lot going on in this picture. There's a man and a woman over there kissing on the right. There's a person selling clothes on a clothes rack over there on the left. A couple of people talking. Kind of out of the way place. And this is where the Venice Biennale was. As we head towards the Venice Biennale, this is, where it is. So Castello is known for this as well. This is the area near where our hotel was located. It's another panoramic shot of Venice as we took it using our iPhones. And this is right across from where the hotel, actually the hotel is on the right side. So you can see there's a window over there on the right with a balcony. That's the hotel. And there's a couple with their child in a stroller walking along the side of the canal. This is another view. So we kind of liked this area of Venice, even though we'd never stayed here. We liked it because it was very charming, as you could see, and it was also a little more peaceful. This is right near the hotel as well. This is the restaurant where we had lunch. So we sat at one of those tables over there on the left, right on the canal, and we had a really lovely lunch, and we didn't have to go very far from the hotel. This is one of the very, very famous campos in that region of Castello, the Campo San Zaccaria, which is named after this church, which is the Church of San Zaccaria. And there's a Vaporetto stop, in fact, by the name of Zaccaria, which, kind of lets you off in this region. And, you could see that it's kind of a quiet area with residential buildings. Peaceful, quiet, but still charming with the wrought iron gates there leading to that landing and the bridge in the background. And I came across this lady who was sketching, and I had a nice little chat with her. And I think I even have a video that I might be showing next week. I don't remember that, but I'll have to take a look. With over there, right in front of her, is a gondola with the gondolier kind of, leading the boat down the canal. This is what she was this is one of the things she sketched. So she was obviously knew what she was doing, because that's a very beautiful sketch of the Church of San Giorgio Maggiore. And this was the hotel we stayed in. And we'll talk about this more next week when I start talking about a little more about the 3 hotels we stayed in. But, oh no, excuse me, it's been 3 weeks, you could tell, right? This is not the hotel we stayed in. This is the hotel right next to the hotel we stayed in. This is the Hotel I Due Principe. So this is not the hotel we stayed in. This is the one next to it. And this is the hotel we stayed in. Also a 4-star hotel, the Palazzo Priuli. And this was a really, really beautiful hotel. And I'll tell more of that story, as I said, next week. But this was the whole area that it was in. And, we've started, and we love 2 other hotels we stayed in. So we kind of have been leaning towards going to this hotel next time we stay here. The advantage is if you want to go to the Biennale, it's a maybe 10-minute walk from this hotel. So you don't even have to take a boat. It's right over there. And these are this is a store that was right in that same proximity. And of course, only about a 10-minute walk, as I just indicated, was the Biennale. And that's certainly a great location to go to. This is the walkway at the Giardini area with the exhibitions on either side. This is another shot of the area right around the Biennale, and yet another one as well, all in the Giardini area. And in the middle of looking at the Biennale, we came across this playground. So there's this very interesting mix. It's a dichotomy of everyday life in Venice, with people just kind of bringing their kids to a playground, and there's a fellow over there on the left drinking water from one of the fountains, and this is everyday life in Venice, and it's right next to the Biennale, which is an area that draws all the tourists and so on. So it's very, very interesting. So the next area is San Polo, and the San Polo area. This is not the San Polo area. This picture was taken from the San Polo area. That building that you're looking at is the Palazzo Bembo, where Laura's exhibition was one of the many, many beautiful exhibitions that took place. And this, of course, is one of the most beautiful palazzi that I've ever been to. One of the hotels we stayed in, of course, was on the top level. Those little windows up there on the very top is actually a 6-room B&B that we were fortunate enough to stay in. But the picture we took was from the San Paolo area. This is the Rialto Bridge, which is the most well-known bridge in Venice, one of the most well-known bridges in all of Italy. And when you walk across this bridge, you come to the San Paolo area. And this picture also was taken from that spot. And it's kind of, again, kind of a dichotomy, because the Rialto Bridge and the whole area around Rialto is completely jammed with people. But if you go across the other side, this is what you get. And it's really, really nice, because you're still very close to Rialto, which is a great spot to be. But it's a more peaceful area, as you could see, with a hotel over there on the right. And through that arch is a major piazza known as the Campo Bartolomeo. So that's a really popular spot. But as you could see, all you have to do is walk a few yards off the main Campo, and you come to this very, very peaceful area. So people like it for that reason. And it's very residential. You see a lot of children and with their parents, and you can see the guy right there in the dead center strolling down the street with his hands behind his back. So, it's kind of a peaceful area. And we love this type of views of Venice. And there's a beautiful little canal with boats. And to me, this is the real Venice. This is the part of Venice. When I come to Venice, and I tell people, when you go to Venice, make sure that you just get lost in the town, in the city. And this is how you do it. You just walk off the main area and just stroll around, and just nobody really ever gets lost. But this is really the back streets of Venice, and this is the part that I love. And certainly if I had my chance to live in Venice, this is where I'd want to live, somewhere off the main drag. And there you see a food store with all the scenes of everyday life in Venice, with the baby strollers, the baby in the stroller, the dog in the front, the child on the scooter, with the parent kind of going into the store. And this is really everyday life in Venice. And you don't see this. You see all the tourist stuff, but you very rarely see people with their children. This is a fruit stand. And, of course, anybody can buy fruit here, but this is where the locals shop. And this is back to the Grand Canal. And, if you were looking in this direction and your camera angle just completely shifted to the left, you'd see the Palazzo Bembo. So right opposite the Palazzo Bembo is this area. And this is the front of a restaurant. And, it's a great spot because, it's in the sun, so I don't like just being, sitting in the sun like that. but you could see that it's a great spot to get a view of the Grand Canal. And this is one of the areas that this area of Venice is known. In the San Polo area is something called the fish market, or sometimes it's called the Mercato di Venezia, the Venice market. And there are musicians playing, and there are all kinds of foods being sold in this area. And you can see that these are all local people doing shopping. And, you know, people wonder sometimes where people get their food in Venice, and this is exactly where they do. They cross the Rialto Bridge, or if they're on that side, that's where they shop, and they get to do a lot of shopping. And, you know, anybody could buy food there, but this is where the locals shop. Seafood. And okay, so here's a video, Ellen. So when you're ready, and this is what you get.
I'm gonna take the whole place.
That's all right.
And then we go over to the fruit and vegetables.
So that's a lively area. You know, it's not just a market, but you have you know, musicians playing and people milling about, and you get this view from it. So this is really a very nice view of a gondola, and the other side of the Grand Canal looking towards the side, which, you know, I've always called that part of the Grand Canal Rialto, but there is no actual district of Venice known as Rialto. It's really part of the San Marco. Part of it is part of where, you know, San Marco still extends, and the other part of it is where Cannaregio comes in, which is the next area I think that we'll be talking about. Here's another very interesting compo with people hawking their wares. Another kind of peaceful area with cafes along the outside, the periphery of the campo. Stores selling a variety of interesting things. And the next area is Cannaregio. And once again, back to the map. And there's San Marco, and there's the Rialto Bridge. So the Rialto Bridge is right here. Right here. You see, it's really in the San Marco area, the Rialto Bridge. See? But if you walk a little bit north of that Rialto Bridge on the same side as San Marco, you then come to the area known as Cannaregio. Now, where we were just before was San Polo, which is right over here. You know, some people call it San Polo, some people call it San Paolo. So, you know, take your pick. But here's the fish market, which gave you a view of the opposite side. And now we're going to go into the Cannaregio area, which is huge, as you could see. And in this area is the Jewish ghetto, which, you know, we were at a few weeks ago when we interviewed, you know, the show in which we interviewed the head rabbi. And if you continue walking, you eventually get to the train station. So this is a very important area and a lovely area of Venice, as you will see in a few moments. And this is what it looks like. And it's really, this was a rainy day because we were now walking towards the synagogue, you know, the Jewish ghetto area. And this was a really rainy day, but even if it weren't a rainy day, it would still be an area which is out of the way of the tourist area. And, you know, you could see that there are some cafes along the outside there, but most of the streets are very deserted. Even when it's not raining, you know, the streets are not, this is not a real populated area of Venice, with kind of cute stores with a local shop, one of whom is probably standing over there in that doorway. And notice how pretty the top of that doorway is. This is just a regular doorway. Look at that beautiful design. Typical, again, of Venice. Typical Venice scenes, but, you know, just a kind of a different feeling to it. You still have your beautiful canals and your beautiful bridges and boats, motorboats. That's you know, just a regular private motorboat. This is the Cannaregio Canal, where if you take the bridge, which is in the foreground that you can't see, you can be headed towards the train station. Again, another fish store along the way. That's the bridge that I was referring to that was kind of in the foreground. And you come to the, you know, the Jewish ghetto area, and there is a store which is selling antipasto israelitico con falafel. So you can see that that's kind of has an Israeli flair. And this is the long hall, the long alleyway. Actually, it could be called a sotto parcheggio. No, sotto. Geez, you know, sotto parcheggio. That could be what it's called, which leads to another area. It's like goes under the building, so it's. And this is where it was actually located, and eventually you wind up at the this was the office of the rabbi at the Jewish ghetto, and it's really known as the Comunità Ibraca di Venezia, or Orario di Segreteria, which is the area where the offices of the association are located. And there's a store in that area, a beautiful canal, and this is right where the museum of the Jewish ghetto is located. The museum is right off over there on the left side. And this was the Ghetto Nuovo, which was where the original ghetto was located. And this is the bridge that leads from the ghetto area onto another region of Venice. Another canal in that area. Quiet, peaceful areas, away from the tourists. Children going to school. This is back to the Ghetto Nuovo. And of course, this was one of the plaques that was put in this area to commemorate the a memorial to the Jews and I guess anyone who lost their lives in Nazi concentration camps. This is actually a view of Jews being herded onto a cable car to go to one of the concentration camps. And that's an area in that same, that's a house in that same area. This is all in that same, Jewish ghetto area of Cannaregio. And this is headed towards the train station now. So we're moving in the direction of the train station. And right over there is the church that stands directly as you're looking at the train station. That church is right on the right of it. We were meeting a bunch of people for dinner one night, and that's where we met them because it's kind of a central point and a real landmark where everybody says, I'll meet you by the church right next to the train station. And that's a view of it looking from, just from the bridge the Scalzi Bridge that connects the train station with the opposite side of the Grand Canal, and that's a view of the actual train station with all the Vaporetto stations right in front. So this is where you would go if you wanted to take the train from Venice to any other part of Europe. And there's the church over there on the right side. So that's a great view of the train station. And this is another view of the Grand Canal from the Scalzi Bridge. See how beautiful that is. Another view looking towards a slightly different direction with the gondola in the front. And this is a great view of that area with the gondola stop right over there on the right side in the front. And walking down the Lista di Spagna. This is a street that comes from the train station going towards the ghetto area, going towards the east. And this is, the street that runs down that. This is a crowded street, but it's kind of an interesting street. It's called the Lista di Spagna. And they really know how to make pizza, of course, in Venice as well as other parts of Italy. We had dinner with a load of people who came with us to Venice for Laura's exhibition. There's me over there on the extreme right-hand side, and right next to me is our friend Ellie, who came to Venice with us, and there's my friend Rick, who will be on the show in a couple of weeks with his wife, Sharon. And to Sharon's left is our friend Susan Spencer Crow, a really brilliant artist. And right in the front, in the red top, is our cousin Barbara Batra, Laura's cousin. And right next to her, right behind her, is our friend Barbara Velasquez, who on the show he was interviewed in one of those shows I did, Alan's Italy, in their own words. So she was one of the people I interviewed. She has a lot of knowledge of Venice. And the next area is Dorsoduro. And Dorsoduro is right over there in green. Dorsoduro is an area I've spent a lot of time. I love this area because one of our favorite hotels, the Pensione Accademia, is located right in there, right next to where it says Accademia. The Accademia that they're referring to in the front there with the red is the museum. So that's why they call that, that's really the Accademia Museum. So you could see that it's kind of right opposite the Giudecca area. And this is the Accademia Bridge. On the left side is the San Marco area. If you cross that bridge, you get to this area known as Dorsoduro. And this, of course, is the Hotel Pensione Accademia, where I've stayed either alone or with Laura at least 6 or 7 or 8 times, not sure. But this is one of our favorite hotels. And that's what it looks like from the side of the hotel. And that's what it looks like looking from one of the rooms. Our favorite room in this hotel is room 55, which gives you a beautiful view of the canal that leads into the Grand Canal. And this is the view from that same window, but looking in the opposite direction. So this is looking towards the Grand Canal, which I guess would be kind of northeast. And then this area would be looking more towards the south. And this is looking at, the hotel is actually all the way at the end there on the left side. But our favorite restaurant in Venice is the Taverna San Travaso, which is the restaurant right there in the foreground on the right side. And this is another one of our favorite restaurants, Cascine dei Nobili, which is also in Dorsoduro, and what Laura believes is one of the best pizzas she's ever eaten. And there it is. And this is what the area looks like. It's, a little more quiet with some really spectacular looking palazzi and quiet, peaceful, quote unquote streets. Actually, they're called rios. A canal in Venice is called a rio. And, and there's a beautiful shot, actually, of a street in that region where a very famous restaurant and hotel are located, the Locanda Montine, which is a very good restaurant. And friends of ours actually stayed in the B&B right upstairs from it. And this is what that street looks like. It's a very charming and relaxing street with very, very few people. And quite residential. You can see again a clothesline. I just thought of it. Okay, as I'm doing a show, and I can't think of a word that I want to say. Um, During the show, I'm actually thinking about what the heck that word was, and I just thought of it. A sottoportego, not a sotto parcheggio. That's an underground parking lot I was talking about. This is the sottoportego, and this is actually a little underground, not underground, but an archway, that a little alleyway that takes you underneath buildings. That's called the sottoportego, and that's one of them right over there in the front. So I finally got that as it popped into my mind. Okay, and there's another canal in the Dorsoduro area. A really beautiful sight right there of a motorboat headed down a canal in that region. This is really a beautiful area. And two of our friends, Ellie and Susan, stayed in this area, so they really, know how to pick spots. This is where the Accademia Bridge and the Accademia Vaporetto stop gets its name. This is the Galleria Accademia with the great Italian Renaissance, Venetian Renaissance art. That's a wonderful museum. And this is the very famous Peggy Guggenheim Museum, which is, this was her house, which was later turned into a display of her private collection. And that's her back porch right there. I've shown this many times. And this is my favorite church in Venice, the San Salute, which is a wonderful church, also in that Dorsoduro area. This is the Church of the Frari, which is a very famous church in the Dorsoduro area. And now we go to the Giudecca. I haven't spent that much time on this area, and again, back to the map. So you see the Giudecca right over there at the bottom. And, you'd have to go all the way to the back of Dorsoduro and then take a Vaporetto to get to this. There's no bridge that takes you there, so that's the only way of getting there. And I have spent most of my time on the Giudecca right over in this region, which is where the beach is. It's called the Lido. So the Lido is on the Giudecca, and that's the only place I've been. I've never been all along here, so I don't have many photos of it. So, this is what it looks like from the Dorsoduro. So if you're on Dorsoduro at the Zattere Vaporetto stop looking across, that's what the Giudecca looks like. And again, I haven't spent much time there, but it's, as you could see, kind of a beautiful area. It's more modern because it's less built up, and a lot of hotels and a lot of condominiums have sprung up in this region. So that's what, that's kind of, there's a very well-known hotel over there. I think it's a Hilton or a Sheraton, one of those well-known chains that's really very nice. And, this is what it looks like. And it's interesting, as all of Venice really is. And the final area is Santa Croce, and you can see where that is. It's the area right opposite the train station. So if you go across the Scalzi Bridge from the train station, the other side is the Santa Croce area. And that's, and again, I haven't spent much time there. And this is one of the pictures I took off the internet of what it looks like over there. it's pretty and it's out of the way. And there's some wonderful B&Bs and hotels in that region. And then Rialto, which is not really a district. Again, there's the Rialto right there in the middle. There is no section known as Rialto, so that's just my perception of what I would call, if I were to give, this area of Venice a name, I'd call it Rialto, even though it's not really called Rialto. But this is what I think of when I think of Rialto. I think of the Palazzo Bembo. I think of the bridge. I think of the Vaporetto stop, which that's a Vaporetto stop we use constantly. I think of the underground passageway that takes you, this is not really a Sotto Portego, but it leads you right to the Palazzo Bembo. And this is along that same area. And this is what the other side of the Grand Canal looks like. Still in that Rialto area. A fabulous view of the Rialto Bridge at night from one of the windows on the upper floors of the Palazzo Bembo. And this is the actual Rialto Bridge. You can see it's very crowded. People love this bridge for shopping and just for people watching. And this is not really a great video. I won't show it because it's just what it looks like. You don't even need the sound. You can just see that people are just kind of walking along the bridge. You don't really get any different view from what I just showed in that still picture. But so that's just kind of what it looks like, with people just kind of milling about, with interesting stores. Oh, these are right on the bridge. So these stores are actually, as you walk up and down the bridge, people have to be careful with those steps because you're kind of always looking at the stores along the side. Another view of the Rialto, going under the Rialto in a motorboat. And that's the end of tonight's show. The next show we will be doing will be next week, which I called a story of 3 hotels. That's an interesting story of why we would be staying in 3 different hotels in merely a 7-day period. So that's an interesting story. And that brings us to the beginning. And it's been a pleasure bringing you tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed that. It's good to be back. I was a little out of it, as you could see. I was a little, not a little tentative because I hadn't really, I was really spending the past week kind of getting the show underway, so I wasn't focusing as much as I should on the actual show, but I hope you enjoyed it. Buonanotte e buona fortuna.